What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from the Quartering. I hope you're having an absolutely wonderful day. This is an interesting story, an exclusive brought to you from the Publica, actually, about a biological male getting away with, how do I say, flashing the meat to biological females in their locker room simply because of their fat roll. I wish I could say I was kidding, but I am not. And it's a joint article we actually worked on with Redux and the Publica. If you enjoy, the Publica is Sydney Watson and myself's news outlet. We have articles going up every day. We've got original programming and videos starting soon, actually later this week. So make sure to check out the Publica and consider joining it. We've got a members-only Discord and all sorts of stuff, cool stuff like that. Now to the story, which is beyond insanity. A biological male who was the subject of multiple complaints after reportedly exposing himself in the women's locker room of an Ohio YMCA has now been cleared of charges, largely due to his weight. Now a woman who says that she was on the receiving end of his behavior is decrying the verdict. Our people actually spoke to this woman. This is like, an actual interview. This is what I said we were going to do with the Publica. We went out and actually talked to the victim here. Darren Glines, who is obese, was spotted in the buff on multiple occasions in the women's facilities last year, but narrowly avoided a conviction after his defense argued that his junk was obscured by the fat of his gut. Glines, who's 31, has been the subject of several complaints for incidents that occurred at the YMCA in Ohio before November 21st and November 22nd, at which time the husband of one of the women involved penned a blog discussing the issues with gender self-identification at the YMCA. Here's the thing. I believe that some of these people, that most trans individuals aren't forcing themselves on other people, aren't doing this kind of stuff. But I do believe that there is a section of the population that gets off on this. Like, first of all, it's just common decency. Like, be self-aware. In his post, Mark Atherton, a Christian minister, stated that he had reached out to the YMCA, by the way, a Christian association, used to be anyway, Dale Brunner, and Vice Presidents Joshua Sullenberger and David Thompson, and had been told that the gender self-identification was policy. Quote, in other words, and these are my words, men with gender confusion who feel like a female will be able to enter and use restrooms, locker rooms, and showers alongside women, and vice versa. Well, it's not going to be vice versa. This is what I mean with some of this stuff. Like, show me, how come it's never the other way? How come no biological women are forcing their way into shower with men? As previously reported by Redux, Glines was charged with 3 different counts of indecent exposure in January of the past year, but on April 28th, Glines was cleared by the court despite 3 women testifying seeing their junk in the common area of the women's locker room. In the ruling, the judge determined that the facts do not exist to support the finding of guilt on the basis that Glines' junk was so small it was not visible as a result of other portions of their body. I don't believe that. According to a trial witness, Glines, who weighs over 350 pounds, was found not guilty because his gut covered his junk. Speaking to Redux and the Publica, so this is like an actual exclusive interview. I want to point out that your money is going towards doing actual investigation here. Katisha, sorry if I mispronounced that, Young says that, well, Sid talked to her, so the results were devastating for victims and their families, but added that she wasn't surprised. Young had been called to act as a rebuttal witness on behalf of the prosecution. An employee of the YMCA in a nearby town of Fairburn said she had a disturbing personal experience with Glines that resulted in her having to get a protective order against him. Quote, I used to be more pro-trans rights on this particular issue, Young says, noting that she had met Glines after he began visiting the Fairborn YMCA. During their first conversation, Glines told her he was transgender in an effort to have her refer to him with she, her pronouns. But what was a friendly relationship quickly took a disturbing turn as Glines began to press Young for information on pleasing herself, bedroom habits, and other intimate topics. Quote, when he started sharing his fantasies, I tried really hard to tolerate it. I tried to be open to the idea that it was maybe just some aspect of transitioning, Young said. I had wanted to be sympathetic and compassionate. See, I think that any people, this is my, I've said this forever about this kind of stuff. Like, anytime that there's this kind of loophole, this kind of opportunity for people to take advantage of, bad people will do it. Maybe there really are some people out there that really, look, I'm a biological woman. I want to go in the biological male, go in the women's room, but obviously I know I have to cover myself up and avert my eyes and find a corner that's like just for me. And then there's guys like this who are probably walking around, proud. We used to call these people, what would you call these? Flashers. Used to call them. I don't know what you call them now. Creeps still, I suppose. Young says that in November 2022, members of the YMCA began coming in and demanding their memberships be canceled. It was because of the locker room policy, saying people could use a locker room they identified with, Young said. One couple came in and my entire workforce ended up surrounding them because the wife was going off. She was asking what is a woman and demanding we tell her what a woman was. Young says the wife turned to her husband and asked staff if he could identify as a woman, to which staff replied that he would just have to change his gender marker on the YMCA membership to be able to use the YMCA facilities. At the time, Young did not know the patron outrage was related to Glines' behavior at the other YMCA and assumed that it was due to transphobia. Her assumption was bolstered after Glines began complaining to her that he had been facing discrimination. He didn't feel comfortable at the other YMCA, and I did feel bad for him and genuinely thought he legitimately was trans facing discrimination, Young said. Then unaware that Glines had been accused of exposing himself to women and girls. I was even suggesting we arrange a protest. I was all in for supporting him through this attack. Prior to the incident, Young said that she was given little consideration to how gender self-identification could be abused. I mean, yeah, it was a fear, but since I wasn't seeing it, it seemed like something that didn't happen. It felt odd no one could get away with that. Expressing sadness over his treatment, Glines invited Young out for coffee to discuss his experience, and she accepted under the belief she was supporting a member of a marginalized group. The two met at a local Waffle House early in December, and Young said Glines spent a lot of the time condemning a local pastor, unaware that the pastor's wife had been one of the women who had complained about Glines exposing himself to her. In an attempt to be comforting, this is like what I'm talking about. Like, they prey on people's good intentions. They prey on people's want and need for people to, not be evil. In an attempt to be comforting, Young gave Glines a friendly hug, and at the end of the discussion, but what was meant to be a friendly gesture quickly turned into something terrible. Young, a survivor of childhood abuse, said Glines grabbed her junk and rear, leaving her shocked and disgusted. The incident is stacked on other similar trauma from my childhood, and it's not new to me, Young said. The thing that upsets me the most is the foolery. He let me believe he was a friend, and he told me that he wasn't interested in me in that way, and then I'm trying to comfort him with a hug, and I'm thrown for a loop world-shatteringly. And you have, I don't want to rob the public of the full story, but it continues in January, so definitely check it out on thepublica.com. In January, a strikingly similar incident was reported out of Santee, California, where a young woman became the target of a trans activist vitriol after she took to a city council meeting to report that she had seen a male in the YMCA locker room. 17-year-old Rebecca Phillips teared up as she recounted her experience at the January 11th meeting, saying that she had seen a birthday-suited male in the women's locker room. She continued, I immediately went back into the shower, terrified, and I hid behind a flimsy excuse for a curtain until he was gone. I ran into a bathroom stall to change as quickly as I could, organizing my thoughts to share with people at the front desk. As I did so, I could only think of my 5-year-old sister who I bring to the gym during the summer. Phillips reported that she had brought up her concerns to the YMCA staff, who told her that the male had a right to be in the women's facility due to their policies. Phillips' testimony quickly spread through social media and prompted protests to be held outside the YMCA. During the demonstration, the trans-identified male involved in the incident came forward to reveal his identity. A 66-year-old announced publicly that he was the man that Phillips had been referring to in the January 11th testimony. As reported, this same individual previously made headlines in 2021 after he sued a health facility for denying him access to women's changing area. Wood had won his suit against Crunch Fitness Gym in El Cajon, California, after claiming the gym and its owner had discriminated against him based on his gender identity. Like, I believe that this, there are obviously bad faith actors in this position, and this is what these type of policies are, what people take advantage of. It's just disgusting, disturbing. The fact that a judge would say it doesn't matter if his fat roll covered it or not. Was he wearing a towel? Was he even trying to? Just because they couldn't see it doesn't mean it wasn't there. And the idea that you don't get committed, it's ridiculous. But this is the clown world we live in. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure you leave a like on it, and we'll talk to you again real soon.